we now present For the Record.
Welcome to For the Record. I'm Kenneally here in Appleton, Wisconsin, and that's where Republicans from across the state met this weekend for their annual state party convention. Now, that's one of the final stops for the Republican Party ahead of the Milwaukee Republican National Convention this July. Now, ahead of this Saturday's convention, we sat down with the Dane County Republican Party Chair, Malley. We asked him what to expect from the convention this weekend and also where Republicans are right now in Wisconsin heading into that fall election. So obviously heading up to Appleton this weekend, who all from Dane County is going?
We've got our leadership team going, and we have a good amount of our members that are going. It's a little bit of a schlep up to Appleton, but somewhat in the middle of Wisconsin. You know, we hosted state convention a couple of years ago, so that was great. Obviously, our turnout was pretty good. It's going to be a fun weekend.
Yeah, so you're driving up, you head into that convention center. What should somebody expect?
Well, it's going to be interesting. It's good that we've pretty much cleared the field in the presidential and the Senate races. So I think it'll be a little bit less divisive than we're accustomed to at times as Republicans. So that's good. Actually, the theme of convention is United to Win. Last year was Red to the Roots. This year it's United to Win. If the Republican Party stays united behind our top of the ticket candidates, we're going to win the state of Wisconsin.
Is there any concern that that wouldn't be the case as you're heading
Well,
into
the concern that's percolating through the media, at least, is that the Nikki Haley voters aren't all going to go to Donald Trump. And, you know, there were a little bit of hard feelings from the primary. The DeSantis voters have all migrated to Trump. Every other candidate's voters, pretty much, maybe except Chris Christie voters, have gone to Trump. I think a lot of Nikki Haley voters have also made the jump just because things are so existential on the other side and they can't get themselves to vote for Joe Biden. We want to shore up any voters that are straggling in the party, and we also want to make sure that our voters don't stay home because they don't like either choice.
Certainly. So also kind of looking at Appleton a little bit maybe as a precursor to Milwaukee, which will be the star of the show this summer. Nominally, too, I understand that this Appleton convention is to kind of nominate the delegates from Wisconsin to appear in Milwaukee later. What does that process look like?
So we actually have our delegates set. So the delegates for the congressional district are based on who carried the congressional district in the presidential preference primary. Now, Trump cleaned up because Nikki Haley was already out of the race. So Trump's going to get all the delegates from Wisconsin. I happen to be one for the 2nd Congressional District. I'll be there in Milwaukee. And then the executive committee picked the at-large delegates for Wisconsin. So we're set with our 41 delegates that we're sending to Milwaukee. That's going to be pretty exciting.
Yeah. So also during the party convention, you debate the party platform for Wisconsin, too. Any kind of intrigue, anything that we should expect from that platform debate?
Nothing crazy. There weren't drastic changes from 2016 to 2020. People know what our principles are: limited government, free speech. Right now, with what you see going on with the college campuses and the Israel-Hamas war, actually, I think you're going to see a little bit more juice with that issue. It's important for us because that's an issue that's really dividing the Democrat Party. And Democrats, frankly, are really good at stoking division in our party. So I say it's time for us to do what the Democrats are good at, because usually they're in lockstep. But this time, this election, Bernie Sanders even went and has been doing media interviews, and he said that this war could be Biden's Vietnam. This could be the issue that prevents Biden from winning re-election. We've got races for National Committee man and woman that are going on this weekend. Those roles haven't been contested in 45 years, and you're seeing a groundswell of support for a couple of the candidates that are more grassroots oriented and want to take the fundraising of the Republican Party of Wisconsin to the next level. The Wisconsin Democrats have done a great job raising money and bringing outside money, frankly, from California, New York. And I hear Republicans grumble about that all the time. And we got shellacked in the Supreme Court election with all of the outside money coming in. Dan Kelly didn't have nearly as much money. Republicans need to stop moaning and groaning about the outside money and embrace it, because it's political reality. And we need to raise money in places like Palm Beach, Florida, New York, Orange County, California, where there is a lot of Republican money. So I think it's going to be really interesting. Those are two races this weekend to keep an eye on, to see which direction the party is going in internally. It's going to be a fun weekend, I can tell you that.
We're also looking at kind of mid-late May-ish here in terms of the election cycle. We were talking a little bit off air. You know, now once you endorse as a party, you can start fundraising and kind of allocating those party resources. What does it mean when we look at this kind of late May timeline in terms of this election cycle for this party convention?
Well, it's good that we're having it in May. Last year we had it in June. I think the earlier the better. In terms of the swing states, we have one of the latest primaries for Senate and congressional. Ours is in mid-August. I think that should be moved up in the future, but until then, it is important that we free up party resources well in advance of the election. So this is 6 months out. I think that Eric Hovde will get the endorsement, and we can free up the party resources for him because we have to defeat Tammy Baldwin. Tammy Baldwin has been actually more of a far-left senator than Nancy Pelosi has been a congresswoman. If you look at her voting record, yes, no on the issues, and is she voting to uphold our freedoms in the state of Wisconsin? She's been a great chameleon. She paints herself as really strong with the farmers, with the dairy farmers specifically, but frankly, she hasn't brought home the bacon for Wisconsin. And I'm really confident that Eric Hovde will go in there and not cancel out Ron Johnson anymore. You know, we have the two most diametrically opposed senators in the country. We have a rock-solid conservative and we have a far-left progressive. I think we're going to have two rock-solid conservative senators come November.
So obviously, you know, journalists might be watching at home on Wisconsin Eye or Political Nerd, certainly. But it's fun to kind of watch some of these big names come in. You'll get, in this case, you know, Senator Ron Johnson, you know, Eric Hovde certainly running for Senate as well. When viewers at home kind of listen to those speeches, what do you think they should be taking away for? What should be some of those key words to listen for?
Well, the key words are going to be the failures of the Biden administration, frankly. You're going to hear inflation a lot. You're going to hear a little bit about Israel, Hamas, as I've talked about. You're going to hear about some of the wedge issues for independence and the left. And I think they're really going to make the case that even if you don't like Donald Trump, everybody has a position on him, unless you've been living under a rock. You love him or you hate him. There's no in between. And there are going to be a lot of people, frankly, that hold their nose and vote for Donald Trump in Wisconsin because the schools, the radical indoctrination in K-12, you're talking about the college campuses, Jewish students not feeling safe on the campuses, and other students, frankly, not feeling safe. It's a really anti-American agenda with all of these tents popping up at UW-Madison, UW-Milwaukee. They don't like Israel. They don't like white Christians. They don't like Jews. They don't like America. You'll never see an American flag alongside a Palestinian flag at one of their rallies, but you will always see an American flag alongside an Israeli flag because those are students and those are people that love our country. They're not the paid agitators that you see on the left. So I think you're going to see a lot of messaging about how dire this election is for the country and the importance of Wisconsin. Wisconsin's going to be the tipping point state. So you're going to hear a lot of language like Wisconsin is 1 out of 5 states, 1 out of 3 states, 1 out of 1 state, frankly. We're nominating the Republican for president here, and I think we're going to put Donald Trump over 270.
Well, Brandon Malley, thanks so much for sitting down with us.
Thanks for having me.
When we come back, the state Supreme Court heard a possibly pivotal case on ballot drop boxes this week. We check in with the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign's Nick Ramos. We'll be right back after this.
This portion of News 3 Now is sponsored by Madison Gas and Electric.
MG&E, building your community energy company for the future through the power of working together. Committed to cleaner, more sustainable energy, driven by innovation, fostered by shared values. Visit MGE2050.com.
This is the greatest sleep innovation ever created. It's the patented Gel Flex Grid inside every Purple mattress. Only Purple passes the raw egg test because only Purple conforms to relieve pressure from hips and shoulders while supporting your spine. Memory foam doesn't come close. Sleep on a Purple and get your best sleep ever.
Save up to $800 on select mattress and adjustable base bundles. Denver Mattress, the easiest way to find your perfect Purple.
My part-time service in the Army National Guard makes it possible for me to be more for the community I call home. Learn more about how you too can live and serve part-time close to home by visiting NationalGuard.com.
Obamacare is a disaster. We want to terminate it.
That would mean over 100 million Americans will lose protections for pre-existing conditions.
President Biden has protected the Affordable Care Act and lowered healthcare costs for millions by $800 a year. Now, he'll make those savings permanent.
Healthcare should be a basic right. Folks, he's coming for your healthcare, and we're not going to let it happen. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
Monday at 10, toxic water poisoned families at a military base. Now, a local veteran shares his struggles applying for government help for his sick wife.
They're fighting it.
I'm looking for answers to why these toxic water denials keep happening. Monday at 10.
MG&E, building your community energy company for the future through the power of working together. Committed to cleaner, more sustainable energy, driven by innovation, fostered by shared values. Visit MGE2050.com.
Welcome back. We're joining you here from Appleton, Wisconsin, where the Republican Party of Wisconsin held their annual state party convention this weekend. Back in Madison, though, the state Supreme Court, which has a new liberal majority, revisited a case challenging the ban on ballot drop boxes. These are the boxes that you may have seen around cities like Madison, where voters can return their absentee ballots. It's a method of voting that advocates like the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign's Nick Ramos have been pushing for. We sat down with him in Madison. Why did Wisconsin Democracy Campaign get initially involved with that Dropbox lawsuit? Or why were you supportive of it?
Well, we have been traveling across the state because of just the fight for fair maps. And one of the things that we've heard in a lot of the communities has been a need for wanting ballot drop boxes back. And so a lot of the very people that we help in rural communities, a lot of nurses and medical professionals, as well as people that are disabled. These individuals were all very distraught when the drop boxes were taken away in 2022. And so when we saw that oral arguments were going to be taking place this Monday, we wanted to try and do a statewide tour in cities that made the most sense. And so Madison, Milwaukee, Green Bay, Eau Claire, Wausau, we started to mobilize voters in all of those states, and in all those cities, and we wanted to have voices that painted the picture of individuals that really have been victims because the ballot drop boxes have been taken away from them, and they got to tell their stories. And we had rallies where people were energized, but they were also applauding this Supreme Court for having the backbone and the courage to open this case up, because I think a lot of people realize that it's really unpopular to look at a court case that a Supreme Court has already looked at 2 years ago. And so I think this Supreme Court is listening to people, and we're very hopeful that they're going to end up bringing ballot drop boxes back to Wisconsinites.
As you think of this, obviously something so fundamental as a person's right to vote, why is this such a small d democracy issue?
Well, I mean, it's literally just how we engage with voting here in Wisconsin, just generally speaking. I know that it's become super hyper partisan in recent days. Post 2020, the big lie led to what I believe the reason why we lost ballot drop boxes in this state in the first place. There was a lot of phrases like ballot harvesting. People were stuffing ballots into these unmanned ballot drop boxes. Problem is that that wasn't really happening. And ballot drop boxes are very safe. They are secure. A lot of them have cameras, and they're usually sitting right outside of City Hall. And you have municipal clerks that are monitoring them. And so a lot of just conspiracy theories were flying left and right post 2020 after Donald Trump lost the presidential election. And so we're looking at a time where we're working really hard to make sure that we're breaking down a lot of the myths and disinformation that's happening. And I think people here in Wisconsin, they're tired of hearing all the conspiracy theories. They want to be able to have more options to be able to vote. And ballot drop boxes was one of those opportunities and options that we were using for years and didn't have any problems. And so it's only become controversial because there was a political party that didn't like the outcome of an election, made it partisan, and then took it away. And so now we're looking at, look, we see voter suppression tactics running an all-time high, and we want to make sure that voters have every option available to them so they can cast a ballot that counts at the end of the day.
If the Supreme Court comes back with a decision this summer, how this would shape the fall election?
COVID changed everything, and absentee voting skyrocketed during COVID, and I think that it showed us that voters really want the opportunity to either be able to vote early in-person absentee or be able to get their ballot mailed to them and then mail it back, or have it mailed to them and then be able to drop it off. So if we get ballot drop boxes back, I mean, it's going to be, again, another opportunity for people to then use that mechanism and that vehicle to then participate absentee and vote. And I just see it being a victory not just for Democrats, but also Republicans. It gives everyone a chance to be able to, if you have a very tight schedule, and I think about those healthcare heroes, I think about those single parents, like they should not be put into a position where they have to drop a medical procedure, or they should have to worry about, you know, having to go pick up their kid to then go vote. Like, they should be able to, at the convenience of their own schedule, be able to participate in our democracy. So if absentee voting is an all-time high, then let's make sure that those absentee voters get a chance to actually participate in our democracy and vote.
So you do a lot with tracking money, as you guys were alluding to a little bit earlier. You're one of the most easily accessible places to track that. So when voters are looking at some of these top-line numbers, you know, how much Tammy Baldwin's raised versus Eric Hovde, is there anything that you, from your perspective, think they should be keeping in their minds as we progress through this election?
I would say pay attention to just the money that will be coming into this state, because Wisconsin is going to definitely generate a lot of different, not only big donors, but also big corporate interests. I mean, as Wisconsin goes, the nation goes. And so not only do we have a presidential election happening right now, but we have a Senate race happening right now. We have new voting maps happening right now. There are a lot of vested interests that want to see, you know, their candidate, their person be able to win so that they can make sure that their person delivers on their bottom line. And so, you know, you see bigwigs that are already starting to funnel money into this state. And like organizations like mine, the Wisconsin Democracy Campaign, we're tracking that money to show you just how much they're willing to double down and triple down to try and get their candidate to win in these races. And they're going to find creative ways because of the campaign finance laws we have here in Wisconsin. You know, you can max out in donations, but then you can take your money and put them into independent expenditures. You can run them through parties. You can do a multitude of things because of Governor Walker in this state, and because of, you know, some of the Republicans that have changed the way that we do campaign finance here. And so I know that there's a variety of Wisconsinites that I talk to, and I think everybody knows money is a problem here, and everybody knows that reform is needed. But then when election times comes around, it becomes an arms race where everybody then knows, oh, I got to outraise the other person to win. So we need to just stop that type of mentality and that thinking, and think more about, like, what can we do to make sure that people that are just everyday people, middle class, lower class people, can actually have their voice heard at the end of the day and have a seat at the table instead of being forgotten because the person with $1 million or $1 billion gets to come in and then have their candidate win, and then we just get swept away and thrown into a closet. So the spending is not going to stop, and then that's just talking about this year. I mean, 2025, we've got a Supreme Court race happening. In 2026, we have a Supreme Court race happening next year, the year after that. So buckle up, because we're not going to get out of this arms race as far as spending. And there's going to be a lot of people that don't really have Wisconsin ties. They're going to spend a ton of money here, and there's going to be people in Wisconsin that are going to spend a ton of money in here to see their candidate win.
When we come back, State Representative Sheila Stubbs has continued her push for a task force to address missing and murdered African-American women and girls. She sits down with Armand Rahman when we come back.
My son, Nick, took illicit fentanyl, which cost him his life. And knowing that my son is never coming back is the worst thing that I will have to live with for the rest of my life.
Tammy Baldwin's been with us every step of the way. She just got a major bill passed to really crack down on fentanyl. She doesn't just talk the talk, but she actually walks the walk.
I cannot tell you how much we appreciate Tammy Baldwin fighting this fight.
I'm Tammy Baldwin. I approve this message.
Hanson's knows what your home means to you. It's where you feel safe, comfortable, protected, and of course, no other place provides you with as much joy. That's why our durable, energy-efficient, and weather-resistant windows, roofing, siding, and gutters, as well as our bathtubs and showers, are all backed by our guarantee. So you can feel happy in your home for years to come. With professional installation and thousands of 5-star reviews, we're your trusted home improvement expert, exceeding homeowners' expectations for over 30 years. Get 50% off installation with high-quality craftsmanship you can count on. Or enjoy no interest and no payments for 2 years. From windows to roofing to siding to gutters to bathtubs and showers, no one's got you covered like we do.
Call 1-800-HANSONS. Get it done.
To everyone who enjoys a feel-good meal, we're crafting one for you, Wisconsin style.
We're talking handcrafted, cooked to order,
scoop to perfection goodness.
More like greatness.
A snuggle up in the booth, share a bite kind of meal.
A fill you up, heart and soul kind of meal.
Come treat someone you love to a meal they're sure to love.
One always served with a smile.
That comes from the heart.
From Wisconsin with love.
Welcome to Delicious!
Welcome back. Joining you once again here from Appleton, the site of the Wisconsin Republican State Party Convention. Now, back in Madison, though, at the state capitol, legislators are all but done for this legislative session. But Madison State Representative Sheila Stubbs wants the legislature to come back and pass a bill that would create a task force for missing and murdered African-American women and girls. She sat down with our Armand Rahman. Here's more from that conversation.
Representative Stubbs, thank you for doing this with me today. So tell me, yesterday you renewed your push for the, task force on missing and murdered African-American women. Tell me what brought on the third push now?
Yes, but first let me thank you so much, Armand, for this interview. I think media has a lot to do with this coverage. We know from statistics that media is 4 times less likely to cover cases around missing and murdered African-American women and girls. So you actually taking the time to sit with me means a lot to me and these victims' families. The reason I am still doing this push is because I understand how critical it is for this piece of legislation, AB 615, SB 568, creating a task force for missing and murdered African-American women and girls. Task force in the state of Wisconsin is, we know Wisconsin is the worst state to raise a black family. We're the worst state for African-Americans to live in. And I know this legislation is so important because I am hearing from victims across the entire state of Wisconsin, victims that just have missing loved ones. And I'm also receiving calls from victims that have African-American women and girls that are missing. The reason I'm doing this push is because I don't want to accept no. These families are demanding that their loved ones have a voice in this building. They're demanding someone speaks out on missing persons. And so I want to be that person. I know this legislation does 2 things. It gives public awareness, but it does something.
And you mentioned before, it's a lot about preventing this from happening again. Tell me what exactly, remind me, I guess, again, what the task force would do concretely. What are those factors that they would look at?
Yes, absolutely. So one is looking at root causes that's led us to these numbers. In the state of Wisconsin in 2020, we had the highest homicide rate of African-American women and girls in the nation. We had 10.1 out of 100,000 in 2020. It doubled to 20.2 out of 100,000. We know nationally that 5 black women a day are murdered. We know in 2020 there were 90,333 missing African-American women and girls. And what it does for me, it makes me think why. It also makes me think about why this state that I love, that we live here, we're the worst in the nation, yet we're doing nothing. I can't sit here and in good faith not do something.
We'll be right back after this.
Stanton Optical is the best value in eye care. We do the math, people. For $79, you get all this. That costs over $200 at Walmart, over $300 at LensCrafters, and over $200 at America's Best. When it comes to value, Stanton Optical is the top bird. With the best service, quality, and prices, Stanton Optical is the best value in eye care. To help you remember, I made this cheer. The value. A, awesome value. L, lots of value. U, get 2 pairs of free eye exam and anti-glare lenses for only $79.
Dad, are you certain this is gonna work?
Nothing to it.
Are you for imprint certain?
Certainty matters, like the certainty of 4imprint, your home for high-quality promotional gear, including exclusive items and brands they love. Printed perfectly and guaranteed to arrive on time. To wow your clients, nail your next event, or inspire your team, check out 4imprint.com.
4imprint, for certain.
Thousands of our heroes face the difficult choice between keeping their heat and power on or facing homelessness. 21,000 Wisconsin veterans are living below the poverty line, many impacted by physical or mental health challenges. Wisconsin loses 3 veterans to suicide every week. Together, our mission is to provide all struggling Wisconsin veterans with a critical survival safety net that keeps them safely in their homes. You can make a real difference by providing a donation to the Wisconsin Heat and Housing for Heroes initiative, with 95 cents of every dollar donated going directly to those right here in your community. Help by visiting www.heatforheroes.org or by calling 1-800-891-9276. That's 800-891-9276.
Welcome back to beautiful downtown Appleton, Wisconsin, where the State Republican Party held their annual convention this weekend. Now we'll leave you with this, a little bit of a sports story. Next spring, Wisconsin will play host to a major national sporting event, the NFL Draft. Now the 2024 draft was held in Detroit this year, and this week Governor Evers took the handoff, literally, of a ceremonial football from his Michigan counterparts. And that does it for us this week. I'm Will Kenneally. Thanks again for joining us here in Appleton. Have a great rest of your weekend.